Hello, I'm Mike Battaglia with JD Power, and I have the honor and privilege of sitting here with Gail Miller, who is the chairwoman of the Larry H. Miller Group of Companies. So welcome, Gail, and thank you for spending a few minutes.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate
It's a pleasure to be here.
So I'm going to start maybe a little bit differently. So you have your plate full, to say the least, right?
I do.
Whether it's the auto group or the jazz or the baseball team or the movie theaters, I mean, you name it, right? There's a lot.
Yeah.
You have a lot going on. But a couple of years ago, you wrote a book.
I did.
Right? So tell me a little bit about why you wrote your book and what that experience was like.
Well, my book was an interesting experience because it was written with the idea that the things I had been through may be of benefit to other women. If they could read about some of the things that I had been challenged with, they may feel like it's not going to be so hard for them. So it really is an inspirational book, just 10 chapters on things that I had focused on in my life that made a difference for me. And I've had a good response to it. Women will come up to me all the time and say, "Oh, thank you. I feel like I have a friend." And so it's turned out to be a good experience.
And I think it's fantastic what you were saying about transitioning from being a stay-at-home mom to running a very large company. I think a lot of stay-at-home moms sometimes feel stuck by that, right? And they can't make that transition. And I think that it's inspirational that you can. Right?
I think it's interesting because a lot of women would like to. I kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for it, but it's been a good experience.
So I guess kind of along these lines, how do you define success either for yourself, I think both for yourself personally, but also for your companies?
Well, I don't define success necessarily by a bottom line figure. I define success by, are we making a difference, and are we providing good jobs, and do we have the right culture, and are we making a difference in our service and in our values? So I know money counts. It's really important. You have to have money to live, to work another day. But there are so many other things that are important along the way that contribute to the success that having a business makes possible. Without the values that you espouse, the good values, I think you have a hard time drawing in the business you want to have.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So one of the themes of your talk was change, and how the only thing constant is change.
That's true.
Right? And the industry's going through a lot right now. I think in some ways, maybe even more disruptive than the usual pace of change, right?
I think so.
So what do you see, for the Larry Miller Auto Group? What do you see as the biggest challenges that you're facing over the next few years?
I would have said a few years ago that there was so much uncertainty that we were quite nervous. But as we've moved forward and we can see some of the things that are on the horizon, I don't feel as nervous about it because we can adapt and we can embrace change in a way that whatever happens, we have people that will be able to do what needs to be done to still be successful. Whether it's, electric cars, we'll sell electric cars.
Right. Digital retailing?
We'll do what needs to be done. And I think the adapting part is where we will see our ability to continue successfully.
Yeah, that's great. I very much agree with that. So you also talked about succession planning and planning for the company out 80, 100 years. Right. But maybe bringing it a little bit closer in. What do you see the company doing in the next, and whether it's just the auto group or maybe even just the broader organization, where do you see the company going in the next 5 to 10? Is it going to be kind of steady state, or do you have plans to do other things?
We're planning on diversifying. We feel like it only makes sense to have a diversity of businesses. If you put all your eggs in one basket, you're extremely vulnerable to the ups and downs of that business. So compatible businesses or extremely diverse businesses, we'll look at either one and see what the future holds.
So maybe within the automotive industry, but maybe not necessarily.
Exactly. We're not opposed to doing something totally different.
That's great. So you, and this is kind of my final thought, I guess, for our time, is you talked a lot about culture, right, and your expectations, and it's very clear that those expectations are real.
Right.
So, but we also know that, you know, there's a lot of turnover in the retail automotive business, right?
Yes,
It's very,
there is.
I think it's one of the most difficult aspects of the business,
I
right?
agree.
So how do you keep that going, and how is it that the organization doesn't kind of give up on it, right? When there is so much of that.
Well, I think culture is really the foundational anchor. But in addition to that, you have to do a lot of teaching and training and motivating and attaboys and rewards, because it's a loyalty issue. If you're loyal to your customers, they're loyal, and to your employees, then they're loyal to you. It's a two-way street. And we find that because of our culture and the way we treat people, they want to stay with us. They want to be in a place where they feel good, where they know they're doing good.
And they're valued.
And they're valued, and
Yeah.
they can make a difference.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. Thank you, Gail. Appreciate
Nice.
it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.